In this video, we will be covering the additional logging added to Genian NAC for webhook posts to an external system. In this case, we'll be talking about Slack. This additional logging helps administrators troubleshoot any webhook issues and allows you to validate that the Genian NAC system has indeed posted a webhook to an external system. Before we look at the logging, let's cover a little bit of background about the features that we'll be using to demonstrate the webhook logging in this video. First, we'll be combining really two different topics that we covered in past blogs. First, we'll be discussing the Ripple 20 CVE correlation alerting and grouping mechanisms inside of Genian NAC. So back in around June, a bunch of CVEs came out that were related to the Ripple 20 vulnerabilities that affected millions of devices with TREC TCP/IP stacks. When that came out, we did a blog posting covering that in detail and talking about how you could identify these nodes by the particular CVEs that affected the TCP stack. So any platforms that Genian NAC detects that matches on these CVEs can be grouped together and enforcement policies can be created using Genian's device platform intelligence, which we'll look at a little bit closer in just a moment. And you can configure the ability to send out notifications and tag these nodes to do other things with them like quarantine, etc. And then, of course, what we'll be looking at a little closer here with the webhook logging is the Slack integration. Also, back earlier this year, there was another blog article we posted that details our integration with Slack. So we talk about security automation with Slack integration, and there's also a detailed instructional video here to tell you how to integrate Genian NAC with Slack. So that's the background of the two components that we're going to be using to demonstrate the webhook logging. What that looks like is essentially you have Genian NAC as a policy server on the network. This can be a cloud policy server or an on-prem policy server. Genian NAC can take alerts in from systems like next-gen firewalls, SIM, etc. And then once these threats are sent to Genian NAC, different actions can be taken. You can actually quarantine devices using a Genian NAC sensor. In this example, we're only tagging nodes that Genian NAC detects organically, and then we're sending out notifications externally. And in this case, we'll be talking about a webhook post to an external system, specifically in this case, Slack. So let's take a look at our demo system here. We have a bunch of nodes that have been detected, and we're going to look at the node list to find a specific node which has the logging in question. So if I scroll down here, I'm going to find the node that we're going to look at the logging for. So this node right here, 192.168.50.145, that is matching on a Ripple 20 enforcement policy. It has been dynamically tagged with a Ripple 20 node tag. That occurred when this device was identified as this particular platform. So what's happening behind the scenes is this particular platform, if we click on this hyperlink for this HP printer, it takes us to the Genian Device Platform Intelligence database. Here there's a bunch of information relative to the platform, including an image, manufacturer, make, model. There is some end-of-life, end-of-sale concerns here, but that's not relevant to this particular demo. Fingerprinting information, manufacturer, name, headquarters, business status, etc. But the logging that we're interested in is relative to these CVEs. So this particular platform has been pre-correlated with these CVEs, meaning that the NICs inside this platform are affected by several of the Ripple 20 CVEs because of the TREC TCP/IP stack. So that is how we identify that this platform is affected. Now let's take a look and see what's happening in the logging front. So if we take a little bit closer look at the logging, what we'll find here is that this particular node matched on a log filter we have set up. So looking at this, we can see that, and I'm going to actually look at all of the history here. So we can see that this node has been detected off and on, and when it's detected, it is actually initially matching on a default enforcement policy, but then it is switching to the Ripple 20 enforcement policy. So when that change occurs, we're using this log filter to actually perform an action. So if we expand this out, we can see more details about the log entry. And then if we click on edit, we can actually go in here and configure different actions. Every time this particular log entry is posted, we can perform an action. So the improvement for this particular feature is that we enabled logging for Webhook. So every time you get any particular log filter set up, you can perform any number of actions. In this case, we have defined a webhook post, and of course, as mentioned, we're going to post to Slack, and here's the post data anytime Genian NAC detects a Ripple 20 affected node on the network. The logging option is what we've added to improve logging, so you can switch this to on, and we'll actually log the details about the webhook post. So that's how this is set up, and again, that's covered in detail in the Ripple 20 blog that you can find on our website, how to set up all these configurations. On the Slack side, we've set up a dedicated Slack channel, and here you can see historically all the different alerts that have come in, and for this device in particular, we have some alerts in August, some November, January, and then some very recent alerts here. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at the logging on the Genian NAC side relative to the webhook post, so you can see the logging improvement. If we go back here, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look, and we're going to do a search on webhook. Okay, so, and I'm going to list all. Okay, so as you can see, what we have here is the only relative CVE webhooks are recent as of today. So the improvement was we've actually added webhook logging. If I expand this out, you'll actually see that there's details in here about the actual post. So this has been added to help you troubleshoot if you're setting up a notification to an external system like Slack or Teams or ServiceNow or any other external system that you're integrating Genian NAC with to facilitate security automation. This additional logging helps you troubleshoot and ensure that when this device is detected and when it matches on this log filter, that Genian NAC initiates a webhook post, which of course you can see here that it has. This logging was not in place for the earlier messages that were sent. So when you go back into January, earlier parts of January and back into last year, we can validate that those webhooks were not sent. So if we look at this and we do 1 year, You can see there that the only two that were sent were on the 12th. So this additional webhook logging is a very valuable troubleshooting tool, and that of course is the context and the background of how everything ties in together when you're using Genian's device platform intelligence to identify platforms and correlate CVEs. Once you do that, you're actually dynamically applying node tags through the log filter. The node tag shows up right here. That'll actually match on an enforcement policy. The enforcement policy you can see right here. And that enforcement policy is tied to all of these platform security vulnerabilities that are associated with Ripple 20. So Genian NAC can actually detect these devices in real time, dynamically assign a node tag, then automatically perform an action. You could quarantine the device. In this case, we're just tagging the device, and then send real-time alerts to external systems such as Slack.